Fellow tennis nerds, I hope you're well. I'm here today with a pretty known guest on the podcast and on my YouTube channel, Henrik Wallensten, one of my best tennis friends and a great player. He's winning every match he's playing now, it seems like. So we're going to get into his normal racket search, which never stops. We are a bit damaged, me and him, but it's going to be fascinating. He's also tested quite a few different rackets. So if you're into rackets, if you want to know about gear, this is the podcast for you. But first of all, how are you, Henrik?
I'm good. I just had a nice lasagna and a glass of red wine, actually. So if I talk more, you know why.
That's great. I'm a bit jealous now. But I've been talking to you over WhatsApp, and every time you play like a competitive match, you seem to be winning. But you've been playing with the Aero, and then you tried the Model 100 from Nordic Dots, and then you started testing blades. So where are you right now?
It's almost like I don't know myself. I'm trying new stuff every time, but I've been playing a lot with the Aero 98, and I play good and win a lot of matches with the Aero 98. But if I'm not on my A game, if I'm like have the bad day at work or something like that, if I'm lazy, the Aero is a bit, it's a demanding racket. You have to be on the top of your game every time. So if I notice that, for example, in the final of the latest tournament last week, I played the semifinal with the Aero. I had a league match the week before with the Aero, and I won love and love with it. But then against a really hard competitor, I was losing the first set 7-6 and felt like I didn't have... it was... it's not the racket's fault, it's my own fault. I didn't get I couldn't swing through the ball with this racket. So the ball was sailing a bit long. I didn't dare to hit my shots. So I switched to the Nordic Dots Model 100 and won the second set 6-1 after losing the tiebreak 12-10 in the set before. And then I went on to win the super tiebreak 10-5 and win the T title. And it was the same when I was visiting you in November. When I was using the Aero 98 in the beginning of the matches, I was a bit tight. I was hitting the ball long, and then I switched to Model 100 and had more control. But then, for example, I was practicing today, this morning, and using the Model 100. And the launch angle of that racket is very low compared to a lot of other 16-19 rackets. So I was hitting like a lot of the shots in the top of the net. So if you have new balls, if you play competition, if you have like a little bit of... if you're a little bit nervous or something and need the extra control, then the Model 100 is a really good racket. But if you need like to hit through the opponent with spin and heavy shots, then the Aero 98 is better for me. So I have the possibility to like change rackets between games, and it works for me. And I have won a lot of matches when I had changing rackets in the middle of the match. So for me, it's a winning, how do you say? A winning
Concept, maybe. Yeah.
Concept, yeah. And I also tried the Blade version 9 104 with some customization, of course, but it's really good on practice when you're just hitting from the baseline or using very used, worn-out, fluffy balls. In matches, when I have tried it, it's a little bit too much launch on that one. It controls me too much. I need to step off the gas and not hit through the ball the same way. I have too big swings for that racket, so I have to practice with it a bit more. I also ordered 2 Blade 100 that I will customize as well, beef up the swing weight, add some silicone and some lead, and compare it side by side with the Nordic Dots Model 100 and see how they play. So it will be interesting. I have some rackets to try now. I'm also very curious on trying some pure strikes again. I was only trying it when you and me did the test like over a year ago in Västerås. So I want to try this pure strike 100 16x20 again, beef it up some fair bit with the swing weight and see how it goes. I think that racket has potential.
It does. I mean, it's a interesting category you're in, right? Like it's the Model 100, Blade 100, Strike 100, let's say, right? The 1621. It's kind of that control-oriented but more forgiving racket. Like with that, I think you and I have said that for many players this should be a good option, right? Because it's such a versatile category of rackets. It could be a speed MP and so on. While the Aero 98 is not a versatile racket, it's a racket that gives you so much as long as you keep the swing speed up. But as soon as you get a little bit tight and you start like trusting your shots, then that racket gets difficult to control, right? Like the ball starts going a little bit too much. You need to always keep up on your swinging with the Aero 98. Otherwise, it becomes a little bit erratic, sadly. It's not the fault of the racket. It's an amazing racket, but it requires a player that really goes for his shots all the time.
That's exactly true. And as a 45-year-old plus player, the movement is not there every day. If it is, the Aero 98 is the best racket I have ever used for me. It's the most effective. The balls are very heavy. The players I play against say that my shots are very heavy. But if I'm tired or playing late or had a bad night's sleep or something like that, it's a difficult racket. And I think that a racket like the Pure Strike 11620 with the same setup, it might work. I love the grip shape and the feel of the Babala rackets, and the Pure Strike 11620 is not that stiff. It's like 62 RA strung, and yeah, I think it should work. So I will give that a try as well. So I always have something in the pipeline. You have to try something new every practice almost.
I think we talked about this many times, but it's like it adds some fun to tennis, right? If you have something to look forward to, sometimes it kind of ruins your game a little bit, but often it's also required for us, crazy people that, oh yeah, no, I'm testing a new string, I'm testing a new customization, I'm testing a new racket, I'm revisiting, which is what you do a lot, and I also do. Like you start thinking like, but I remember that racket played well, why did I put that away? And then you want to go back, like you did now with the blades, for example. You want to go back and like, how did I perceive this racket to play, and did I maybe miss something when I put it away or something? So it's always fascinating to bring something new to the tennis court.
Yeah, and it gives, like you say, like another spice. I mean, it's not that if you don't have any tournaments and just go out to hit for 1 hour, it's nice to play tennis, but indoors in Sweden when it's dark and cold outside, it's not that much fun. So it's just like a normal workout session. So to add some spice, the racket testing or testing new shoes or strings or grips or whatever, it adds so much to my tennis at least, and that is pretty much why I play. I mean, I like to play matches, I like to play tournaments, leagues, but testing gear, that's what both me and you are like playing tennis for in like the biggest aspect. So tennis gear and equipment, I will never like settle for one racket. I will always keep on trying, not because it makes me better, but it's like the fun thing for me in tennis to try gear and see new places and get the chance to travel and try stuff all over the world.
Yeah, I think that's a good realization that if you're that you're never gonna completely settle. Like you might have like a racket. Like I don't remember you having a racket for such a long time as you've been playing with the Aero. At least you have to go back quite a few years, but still, like that there is always something around the corner. Like there will always be new racket releases, but there will always be something you're looking for. And I think to admit to yourself that that's part of what's fun is good, because then you're not like looking for that holy grail that's gonna solve all your problems on the tennis court. But that's not there's nothing like that. The other rackets will have some issue. You will like it one day, you will not like it the next day. That it's not gonna change. So it's better to just succumb to that. We will be looking for new rackets and we will be testing new rackets, and that's like when it's part of your job and your hobby, then there's always going to be new rackets around the corner.
Yeah, every week, both me and you have been trying a lot of rackets since November until now, and the mind is just spinning around, and sometimes the strokes are just not there. So it's important also to try the rackets a couple of times, not just one time, because that day you could have a bad day, or bad footwork. I mean, footwork and preparation is the key to every shot, and a good player, like I saw Carew was playing with a Walmart racket against a player in like the same level as you and me, and he was like wiping his ass with that racket and played extremely well, even with the like $20 racket and factory strings. So it's all about footwork and preparation, and we will not like reach the ATP level. Okay, now we are old, but we will never reach the ATP level thanks to the equipment. But yeah, it's fun to try new stuff, but it's in the footwork and preparation a lot of the time.
Yeah, if you're gonna play competitively, it helps to work on your game. But you've done some work in the gym, because I think it's not the rackets that made you more of a confident tournament player. You've always been pretty confident, but it seems like you're not really losing in a long time, right? At least that's what we've been talking about. And for you, has it been like the fitness? Has it been something mental? Like what is the secret to your kind of recent success on the match court?
I was losing in the Swedish senior championships, a match that you saw live on internet, and I was not playing good. The opponent had like 2 winners, and it was me that was making the match, and I was so tired after that game, after that match, that I lost 2 straight sets, but it took 2.5 hours. And then I said I will not lose any match more in like fatigue or not having the fitness level. So I was really starting to like work out a lot, going to the gym a couple of times a week, playing tennis like 4, 5, 6 times every week, working out in the cross trainer, walking, doing a lot of fitness stuff. And with that, then the victories are coming, and I'm not losing a game since like early August last year. So I have won maybe 25 matches in a row now. And it was the first set I was losing was in Marbella against Ugo. And then it was the second set I was losing was in the final last week. So the fitness level has helping me a lot. It gives me a confidence boost, because I know that I'm playing mostly over 45 years old, and they really have to be like really fit to beat me these days, because I hit pretty hard and with spin, and I have a good reach. So I know that they have to like play good and be very fit to beat me, and that gives a confidence boost, because I don't feel so stressed even if I lose 1-2 games. I know that if I have patience, I will wear them down over a good. I can play for 3-4 hours now without any problems, and it gives a big boost to the confidence when you know that you are fit.
I think so. I think that is the strongest recommendation, not in terms of rackets or buying gear. It's just like, if you have good fitness, at least you have that confidence that you're not going to tire out. And it's also so good for injury prevention, right? So you don't have to worry as much about injuries. So doing the work in between your tennis is, I think, a secret to doing better competitively, but also like not having to worry as much about injuries and so on. So well done, Henrik, for the fitness stuff. I think we can definitely recommend anyone to like work on the core fitness and really put in the work, because it really pays off on the tennis court. But if we're back to the world of rackets, like there's one racket I started thinking about. Now you mentioned the Model 100, you mentioned the Blade 100 and the Pure Strike, and there's the T-Fight 300, right? The 100 square inch racket that I really think you should try. I know it's not so easily available in Europe, unless Tecnifibre wants to send you one for demo, but it's a racket that should be compared to these, because it's in the same ballpark, and it's a good stick. Nicky did not like it. We played yesterday, but he's usually very picky with rackets, and I kind of like it. I think there's some good stuff with it. All Tecnifibre rackets now, the T-Fights, I've noticed that they're quite string sensitive, so you have to dial in the string. But once you do that, they play nicely. But if you use the wrong string, it's quite a raw feeling, and then the wrong string with that raw, no dampening at all, like that's can be a bit off-putting, right?
Yeah, I've been trying the Tecnifibre 305S and the 300S, the 98 square inch versions of both rackets. They are solid, good rackets, but they are not for me, at least with the string setup I was trying, the Razor Soft. They feel a bit like the Head Radical. They feel good when you are just hitting the ball, but the effect that I get is not that what I'm searching for. I wouldn't need to like beef up the swing weight. Maybe try a more raw string, like the Tecnifibre 4S, for example, I would say would work better for me. So the 100, you have been praising that a lot, the Tecnifibre 300 100 version. So it would be nice to to try that one. I will try to contact Tecnifibre and see if they can send a demo so I can try it as well, because it will be comparable to the Model 100 or the Blade 100 or the Strike 100. So we'll see. Maybe that will be featured in a podcast during the spring.
Yeah, you should definitely try it. If you can't find it, I'll ship you one. But sorry, but it's out in March, so it's a bit weird that they went like Europe I think in January or February at least, and then now it's taking a long time to get to Europe. Whereas like I would say the Tecnifibre is a European company, and I thought like the Europe distribution is the most important in their case. But sometimes it's hard to understand exactly what works behind the scenes. But that's one on your list. You have been trying other rackets that I have not tried. I have two rackets that I think you would also be interested to try, which are the new Diadem Axis, but we'll get to those. So we have the Head Instinct, which we thought was pretty much extinct in a way, but it's back. It has Auxetic 1, I think, not Auxetic 2. And that's the 100 square inch power racket from Head, and the more powerful than the Boom. But I have fond memories of the previous Instinct. But how did this one play?
I've been trying it with the Solinco Hyper G string. I got it in grip shape 2, which is too small for me, but I was just trying it with up in Stockholm at the Davis Cup. I will add replacing the pallets to grip 3 and add some tape, sports tape to it, so it's more like a Babola grip shape. I have difficulties with the TK82S grip shape. It's too square or too round for me. And I will also beef up the swing weight a bit because it was a bit too low. But I mean, this is a really sleeper racket because it costs like half of the other big brands. It's like 150 euros. It's and it's not like beginner's racket in the quality. It's still the Instinct that they were selling as the competitor to Pure Drive. It's still they have added the Auxetic, so it's even better. It's very well dampened. It's a fairly tight 16 by 19 string pattern. As you can see, it's pretty dense here in the center. Even if it has fixed strings in the throat, it's still pretty dense. So you have good control, you have good feel. For the lightweight, it's very solid. Good spin. It's a very good all-round racket. I'm extremely surprised that this racket doesn't get any more talk, because it's even if it was like the same price as a Pure Aero or a Pure Drive or like a Wilson Ultra or Head Extreme, it would still be up there with those rackets. And now when it's like almost half the price, it's really worth a try. But if you are like a more advanced player, it will need some lead because it's a bit too light in stock form. But for amateurs or younger players, it's a no-brainer to try it out because it's a really good racket, really worth the price.
Yeah, it's interesting that you see like what they can make the racket prices. You know, I mean, obviously they want like maybe a more of a budget friendly model, but in this case, it's not a budget racket. Like the quality of the rackets was always good with Instinct. It's just a line that they're not pushing. And I mean, if we are in certain jurisdictions and countries, I think maybe you won't be able to find it, because I think they have made it quite targeted in certain markets and not in others. So just a little bit of a heads up. But yeah, some models are cheaper than others. I've noticed that. Like even the Extreme, they keep it lower in price, you know. So that's always interesting if you don't want to spend like this 300 euros or 250 euros some rackets cost, you know, or bucks. You've also tried a smaller brand, a Swedish brand, more famous for table tennis rackets. We did try their 100 square inch racket, which was a bit of a Pure Drive clone last year. That was decent, nothing stand out for me. But you've also tried their Blade clone. And what do you think of this one? It looks absolutely spectacular. That's for sure. I have not tried it, so I'm keen to hear what you think here, Henrik. It's not your typical go-to racket because it's more of a Control 98. So
it's as you say, it's a clone of the Wilson blade, 18 by 20. Bit lower flex though. It was like 58 RA strung. The design looks like the Head Speed Pro Legend. It's almost it's not a copy, but it looks very much like that one. And the frame geometry is like one of the Wilson blade. The sweet spot is fairly small. It's a control racket. It's a comfortable racket. I was stringing it really, really low, like 18 kilos, and then it played good. But with the RA of 58 and the small head size, 18 by 20, you really have to be a good player to use that racket. It's a demanding racket, but during the Davis Cup, I was giving it to some of the Davis Cup players that had played blade in the past, or are still playing the blade. And it looks like when they were hitting with it, it was like they were using the Wilson blade. It was the same power, same control, same spin, everything. It was like, oh, this one I could play with straight away. This is match ready for me. So it's a good quality racket. It looks fantastic. But it's demanding. So if you are like a good level player or hitting very flat shots, this racket would be very good. It would work very, very well for you. I was asked by Stiga for the feedback of this racket, and I told them that I think the market share of a racket like this is pretty small. It's like in the prestige category, prestige 600 category. So I said they should make it like 16 by 19. I think that would the sales quite a bit, because then it's reaching a lot of more players that could use it. A low flex 18 by 20, it's not that many players that are able to control or be able to play with the racket like that anymore. So I think a 16 by 19, or even make it this one 100, like the same frame geometry. Maybe beef up the flex to like 60, 61 and have a 16 by 19 or even 18 by 19 string pattern in 100 square inch racket would work very well. And they would have like a more unique product with really good feel, low flex and a very nice design. But it feels good. It feels like a normal racket. It's not like a cheapish racket. The Supreme, that was pretty stiff when we were trying it. It's good, effective racket, but this one feels a bit more like higher in quality. It feels like a better quality product. So this one, it's good if you like demanding rackets, but you need to be able to generate most pace yourself, and then you are rewarded with good control and very good feel.
Yeah, it's one of those, like, you start wondering the target group, yeah, like, because most people today want a bit of a stiffer frame, at least 1619. And when I talk to the brands, I know that 1619 sells a lot better than 1820, just because what people are used to hearing, like but I want a bit more lift, I want a bit more spin potential. You don't have to know a lot about rackets to know that 1619 is a little bit more user friendly than 1820. And a 98 1820 today has a small target group, as you told them, right? So I would, if I was them, I would do like 1619 and also stiffer up the hoop a bit, like maybe go up mid 60s or a 63 strong RA or something, because otherwise you're not going to get enough pop, on the shot. So you can still make a control racket, but it's a little bit more power in it, I think would make sense.
Absolutely. Like the Nordic Dot Model 100.
Yeah.
It's something more like that. That is more like user friendly. So it will be interesting. I have give them my feedback, and we will see what they are coming up with.
Yeah, that's good. It's good that they ask for feedback, because that's, I think, sometimes needed. Sometimes they try to copy what's in the market already, but that's not necessarily. It's like the market is slipping towards more power, and then you're kind of jumping on that dying breed of control racket, which is not so common anymore. I don't think that they sell a lot of the Blade 1820. I think they sell a lot more of the 1619. I'm pretty sure of that. Okay, so that's interesting. I hope to try it one day. There's two rackets that are new for me. That's the Axis. I know you haven't tried those. Diadem ones. Diadem are also gone on the journey of Stiga. But before, though, like we tried to copy a Blade style racket. That was the Elevate. We tried to copy Pure Drive style racket. That's the Nova, which is we both kind of like. and now they have made an Aero, and then they made an Aero 98 with 1620s, which looks very much like the Aero 98 1620, and they made an Aero 100, which in the profile, when you get the racket, looks a lot like the original beam, you know, like the pure Aero original, or Aero Pro Drive original as it's called. So I'm keen to try these. These are foam filled, so the feel will be different than the Aeros, I'm pretty sure, but could be very interesting rackets. Interestingly, the 98 one is stiffer by quite a bit over the 100, which is rare. Usually it's the other way around, but this is now quite a bit stiffer, the 98.
Did you get what the RA was on the 98?
It's 68 unstrung, I think, which is not too much.
Or about 65, 66 strung.
Yeah, I would say that, yeah. It's nothing crazy.
It would be very interesting. How have you planned to string it up? What the string and tension are you planning on? Or is it the same as your Aeros?
Yeah, I would try. I mean, I'm still using the Nordic Dots TS127, so I think I want to compare with that. I'm usually around 22 kilos, it's 49 pounds, somewhere around there. Sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a bit lower. And that would be the best comparison string. Like generally, if you want to compare them side by side, that would be the best way of doing it. I'm mostly curious about the 98 because I play with the Aero 98 most of the time, but also the 100 would be interesting. We both like the Aero 100, you and me, right? So that's a great frame, and we'll see how this can stack up compared to it, you know. I'm just always worried a little bit about like there's too much dampening going on because I'm not a huge fan of dampening, but we'll see.
I will try to contact Diadem in Germany and see if they are available to send some demo frames for me. The Diadem guy I talked to in Sweden, he hasn't got any samples of it yet, so I will see if they can send it directly. And because it's like a racket that could be very interesting for me personally, because I use the Aero and I like it. I play very well with it, and the Diadem I have played well with in the past. I've reached the Swedish Senior Championships doubles finals a couple of years ago with the Diadem Nova, so I can play competitively very well with the Diadem. And the racket you are holding up now, it looks like it looks extremely nice. I love the design. It looks exclusive. Okay, it's a copy of the frame geometry pretty much with the Aero, but the design, it looks really good. It looks like a high quality product, and it's foam filled, so they are really like focusing on the to softening up the feel as well and dampening. So it will be very interesting, and hopefully I can try it soon as well.
Yep, it's always good to compare notes and have more voices in the review as well. So I'm very, very curious. So I will string up, play tomorrow for a few hours, and have some first impressions. So that will be interesting. But it's definitely getting more complicated to find a racket now because there's so many. I mean, I'm sure this is not going to be a bad racket. I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'm always having an open mind, but it's just another one to choose from, right?
Yeah, it will be. Our minds will be very. When we are meeting in like summer, our minds will be going like. We don't know what racket to use or strings or tension or setup or anything. So we will be pretty messed up when we are practicing the next time in June or July.
Yep, for sure. That's part of the tennis nerd quest. The rest, I don't know like what's coming. I think for now we're on a little bit of a racket break, which is nice because there's been so many releases. We have the Radicals coming in March. Did you playtest the Radicals properly, or did you just try them briefly, or?
I tried it briefly, the MP. The problem with the Radicals are like when you are playing it, just like hitting shots, it's the best feeling racket of all. It feels like you are ATP Pro. The sound it's making a really nice sound by impact. It feels really good. You have a good control. You have good spin. You feel like you are hitting a very good ball. But then the opponents are just getting like easy shots, easy pace from me, and they are just killing me when I'm using it. And then when I change to like Aero 98 or something like that, I create a much heavier ball. So the Radical, it needs some mass. It's too light in stock form for me, or for my level. So I would need to beef up the swing weight quite a bit to like almost like 330 to generate some pace with it, because it's a fairly tight 16 by 19 string pattern. It feels like the center, like 12, 14 strings, they are like comparable to 18 by 20 Prestige, I would say almost. So it needs some mass for me to generate some extra pace. But apart from that, it's a great racket. It looks fantastic. The new design is, I know it's up for debate, the salmon orange theme, but it looks spectacular when you're holding it in the hand. Also possible maybe to go down, drop the tension to like 16, 17 kilos and see how it goes. But I will definitely need to add some lead to it. So if you're an advanced player, it's a good racket, but it needs some lead straight away, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, it's one of those that it's also on the kind of more old-fashioned racket scale. Like if you compare it to these arrows, these Axis rackets, even like a Model 100, which is a little bit of more forgiving head size, Blade 100. The Radical is still in the 98 and still a demanding frame. Like I tried it with Nicky the other day for a video, and yeah, he wasn't a fan at all. He liked the Gravity Tour 98, but he didn't like he thought that the Radical were really demanding, right? And quite difficult to generate some power. And he plays the EZONE. So it's going to be one of those rackets with like, if either you're a very good player and you're like, you can generate, or you're player who doesn't play that like high level players. Like, so maybe you're like a 3-5 on NTRP and you just like the control and feel of the racket and you don't need a powerful shot. But when you're playing guys, like let's say the level we play, 4-5-5-0 NTRP, then you play, if you don't have enough on the ball, you get punished straight away. Like there's no way, you have no shortcuts. Like, so you need something on the ball. And that is the tricky part that I've noticed, that if I go back to these control rackets, I usually get slaughtered by the better guys, right? So yeah, that's the trick. You need something today.
Yeah, I was practicing against a guy called Jonathan Stenberg. He used to have ATP ranking, maybe around 1,000 or something like that. I think he still has some ITF points. And I was practicing 1.5 hours with him and started to play like from underneath the first to 10. And I was using the Blade 104 and lost like 10-2 or something. I didn't have any pace at all. And then I was changing my rackets to the Nordic Dots Model 100. And I was leading like 8-4, but lost 10-8. And then we were playing a set and I was keeping up the pace with him until I had 2 all 40-15 in my serve. But then he turned around and won the set 6-2. But it was still like a tight match. And that was with the Nordic Dots Model 100, with a swing weight of like 328 with some lead. So it really works well when I'm playing matches with it. Same in this last tournament, same in Marbella. And it's strange because it doesn't work that well in practices when I'm not like having new balls or having like a lazy day or something like that. But when I'm focused and playing with the Model 100, that really gives me some extra power and spin. So it's strange that some rackets work in practice, some rackets work in like match situations. And if it would be possible to find something that works in both, it would be nice. But I don't know if I ever will find that racket.
Yeah, it's tricky. Match versus practice. It's like you like you said, you can feeling like $1 million. You're just hitting the ball and you're connected to the ball, and you're like, I can put this anywhere. And then you're playing in a match against good opposition, and then you're like, okay, well, it doesn't really do anything to my opponent. So, and then maybe you're a little bit tighter, so you can't that easily generate all the power from the body that you need to do. So you need some help from the racket. So. And it could be the opposite, where you're like, okay, I'm playing really well in practice, but then you are a bit tight in a match, and then the ball flies. And then you're like, okay, I have to have a less powerful racket or a less powerful setup. Funnily enough, we had Daniil Medvedev play with different rackets in his match recently in Qatar, I think it was. And he played with something that he didn't think he could control, and then he managed to turn around the match. So he did a tennis nerd thing with different racket specs, which is, I don't know how different rackets were, but they were quite different apparently. So very interesting.
Love it. He has been listening to our pods and videos.
Yeah, of course.
There's a racket nerd tennis nerd in everyone, or it should be at least.
I think the players, even on a very high level, are getting more and more into gear. Like, I think it's becoming one of those things that they have to be on top of as well a little bit. You know, it's like they already get the best nutrition, fitness advice, hopefully. Like, at least they have focused trainers and specialists for that. And then obviously, like, they need their setup to be good as well. And now with the balls being quality not so great, I think they look for more. You know, how can I get a bit more pop on the ball with my serve when I'm defending? You know, so I think we're gonna see a more interest in this topic, which is good and bad. Like I think for the pros sometimes it can be a rabbit hole and it can be very dangerous. But for us it's more of a fun thing, you know. But I definitely think it's gonna grow the interest around the tweaking your specs a bit and gear.
Yeah, and you have to think about also now when you're mentioning the balls are like really, the quality is much worse. Let's say you compare a brand new ball when it's right out of the packaging, compare that to when it's been playing for like 1.5 hours on hardcourt, it looks like a fluffy rabbit. And of course, if you have the same strings, the same setup, same racket, it's a big difference from a brand new ball until a really fluffy ball. So that it could be like when I'm starting my matches, I use one racket and then I'm gradually switching racket to another model when the balls are getting used and I need some more pop or power spin. It actually makes a bit more sense. I know some players like could use different strings, tensions and stuff like that, but do whatever works and don't have anyone judge you. If we should be judged and listen to that, we would be like in the mental hospital 5 years ago, because we have been trying so much in matches that people are just looking like.
Yeah. I've even gotten the comments in a match that people are like, "Oh, you have a new racket again," you know. But sometimes it works, you know. So it's like if you know what you're doing and why you're switching to this racket, then it could be a mental that you kind of unlock something mentally. But generally, like, oh, okay, I got a bit more control, so I got me a bit more power, and then you turn the match around. It's happened multiple times. So sometimes it's just not your day, and doesn't matter if you play with 65 different rackets, but sometimes it works.
Yeah, and that feels very good.
Yeah, it's like you're a genius now suddenly. When it comes to strings, you're still sticking around to the Torbite when it comes to when you're testing the rackets and stuff, or do you have something else you're testing?
I've been trying the Laxilon 4G Soft. I've been trying. I also got a reel of the Laxilon ALU Power 125, and that is a really good string. In the blades, that string works very well, very, very well. Almost, I cannot speak English anymore. I don't practice English good enough. But the Laxilon ALU Power is a really good string, the silver version or gray silver version. In the blades, it works very well. So I will use the ALU Power in the Blade 100 when I'm trying those rackets and see how they are. I have the ALU Power in the Blade 104. And it would be interesting to try the Blade 104 out on the clay, because it could do some damage on the heavy damp and clay courts in the spring. And it will also be interesting to try the Blade 100 and see how that is with the ALU Power from Laxilon. But otherwise, I'm using the Solinco Torbite 125. It's my go-to string. It's a bit expensive because I'm trying a lot of rackets, so I string them up all the time with the Torbite, and I pay the strings myself. So it's I buy a lot of Torbite reels now. But it's good to have the same string when you're trying stuff. So it's well worth it, because the Torbite is one of the best strings ever made, at least for me.
It's a great string. Yeah, I agree. And the testing, when you test so frequently, I mean, we know strings. So for example, I would know what ALU Power plays like if I put it in a racket. Like I know what that brings and what the racket brings, because it's a very familiar string. I played it with so long, right? But it's good to have that one standard at least, where you're like, okay, this is at home. And the string is half the racket. So I noticed that in my arrows as well. Like if I'm testing new strings in the arrows and I'm starting to play like a match, then I want to go back to the Nordic dot string, because I feel like, okay, that's where I have extra bite on the ball. So for me, that works the best, you know. So the string is very, very important. And they always new strings coming out, and you can't test everything. And some strings are quite, you know, interesting, and you know, they're trying to make extra spin. And I tried this new grapple snake string called Aspera Triplum, and it's like a square string with some with a rough texture. So it's a rough square string. Sorry, where they have like some kind of indent in the string. So it's like an extra shape on the string. So it's like 3 different shapes going on in the string. And it's very spinny, but then sometimes you feel like it's too spinny. It's almost like a gimmick, right? So it's it's an issue you always find in the string. This string could work fantastically in like an 1820 Stiga, for example, but you put it in a 100 square inch 1619, it's gonna be too much, you know. It's like, so you always have to match the string a little bit with the racket as well. I think that's quite important.
Yeah, it is. And also another aspect is to change the grips, the overgrips. People are like using their overgrips until they are falling apart. And you know that when you have like a very used overgrip, it's easy to the racket to like slip.
Yeah.
Every time you're hitting, you're slipping a bit. So you need to be very important. It's very important to have like buy a lot of overgrips and replace them. I almost every time I play a match, I use a new fresh overgrip, and then maybe I use it 3-4 times at practice as well. But then they are like filled up with sweat and salt and stuff like that. And it's also it's not so fresh to have like a dirty old overgrip. So it's bacteria and stuff like that. And sometimes you're taking the racket straight to your mobile phone, and then you're taking a sandwich, and it's not good with all the bacteria going on. So replace your overgrip more frequently. That's it's good for your game and it's good for your stomach.
Yep. I've seen some, we've all seen some people who are kind of refusing to change overgrip despite it being completely brown or towards brown. Like it's not a huge cost. And overgrips are very usually personal. Like I have a few overgrips I like. Super Grab from Yonex is my go-to. I like the Wilson Pro overgrip, and the Head Prime Tour is kind of similar to all 3 of them. And then I have this a brand called the Rich Sport, which make a really nice, slightly thicker overgrip. But I don't have any left now, but those are good. So I don't want to experiment too much with overgrips. What's your overgrip of choice?
I buy like a 60 pack of the Wilson Pro overgrip, and that's my go-to. I've been testing the Nordic Dots overgrip as well now, and it's surprisingly good. It's something I've been using a lot, and I could easily use that one. It's a little bit more, it's not so sticky as the Wilson Pro overgrip. It's a little bit more like, it's not like a tourna grip, but it's more like a matte surface. So it gives you a little bit more like sweat absorption compared to the Pro overgrip. But I'm so used to the Pro overgrip now, so that's my go-to grip. But I could easily use the Nordic Dots as well, and I have been using it in matches, so it works for me. The Yonex Super Grip is also very good. But that's it. I don't use any more overgrips than that. The other ones, I feel they are too slippery. The Yonex and the Wilson and the Nordic Dots, they are just perfect between grip and sweat absorption. So that's those 3 I use, but I use the Wilson Pro overgrip absolutely the most in pretty much every racket.
Yeah, I think that's a thing that is hard to change. And I test all the overgrips, like, because usually most brands, they have an overgrip that they want to sell as a kind of accessory product, you know, and I'm rarely find something I like. Like, it's just something that, okay, I want to go back to my old one, because it's the grip, the grip shape, the grip type, the stickiness of the grip. That's all so important to how you play, right? So I wouldn't risk changing around with that stuff. When it comes to balls, do you have like a standard ball you're using now, or you're like always testing, seeing what works and what has decent quality, or where are you?
And right now I have bought like 18 pack with the 18 cans of the Wilson US Open. Just bought it here in the shop, and that's the ball I've been using these days. It's a good price of those balls here in Sweden. And for me, it's the ball that works, that I play the best with. I also like to play with the Tritone series. I think it's just called Tritone series. And that's a good ball as well. We use them in our league matches. So that's the 2 balls I've been using. But then when I go to play in Liga matches in Austria or Germany, I ask what kind of balls they are using, and then I buy a couple of cans of those just to get used to the balls, because balls are pretty much different these days. And the balls that are sold today, even from same brand, same model, they are not the same like pre-COVID. Something has happened. I don't know what they've done, but most of the balls are actually not good anymore. They don't last long. The quality is extremely big difference between different batches, and the talk that players are talking about with balls, it's for real. The balls are the difference are very big. I feel though the US Open is pretty solid, but yeah, it's balls are important to find a good one, and the US Open or Triathlon Series is the balls I'm using these days.
Yeah, I did see a picture you posted on Instagram today from a testing session. You had a bunch of rackets. I'm going to ask you about like if you have visited the EZONE, and I'm also going to ask you about the Asics Gel-Res X, which was in the picture as well.
If we take the EZONE, I was trying the 98 version today.
Yeah.
Totally stock. This is not a racket for me, to be honest. I'm not good enough player. For a player like Nikki, or even like the type of tennis that you are playing, I would say that this is a good racket. But I have too much extreme Western grip and trying to slice and playing awkward tennis, make the life bad for my opponents. It's not a racket for me. I've not tried the 100 version more, but I just wanted to try the DR98, the old DR98. And the launch angle of the DR98 is too low for me. I was hitting a lot in the top of the net. So maybe I need to adjust some bit more, but the EZONE 98, the new version, that's not for me. It's not for my game. I'm not good enough, to be honest. Or I don't have a game style that it works for. So yeah, I was just using it a couple of minutes, and then it was right back into the bag.
It happens, you know. Yeah, that's one is a tough one. Like I like it at times, but I'm not sold, you know. So I think for a player like Nikki, who it's quite flat, you know, like and my friend Leah, who plays and now made a switch from the Blade 104 to the EZONE 98, which is a pretty big step in head size. But they both hit very flat, and if you do that, then it does a pretty good ball. But if you're trying to play a little bit creatively and we're using different spins, it doesn't really take the spin that well. So it's not like a competitor to the Aero 98 in my experience. You know, that one generates a lot more of an annoying ball for the opponent. But if you hit flat and hard, I think the EZONE 98 is a great choice.
Absolutely, but not for me. Those shoes you were asking for as well, the
Gel-Res X.
Gel-Res X. And as you see, for those of you that don't know, you see that this part is much higher than in the past. I think I have a couple of shoes, so to say. This is the old version, the clay version, and here you see like it's the same height on the sideboard. But here you see it's a big difference. But you don't notice this one on court. You don't notice it that it's higher at all. I thought it should be like really interfering with the ankles. You don't notice it. First time I was trying it, I didn't like it at all. I actually changed back to my old Yonex shoe. But then today I really liked it. I've been walking with it a bit and it's been softening up a bit. It's a very, like you see, it's a very solid shoe. And also they have something very good here that a lot of people don't think about. But you see here that they have two different locations for the shoelaces. So you can tightening it much harder if you want, and having it dig into the wrist a lot more. It's a very technical shoe, I would say. They have really made a lot of research for this one. It feels a bit more like bulky compared to the version 9. And it requires, as I noticed, some breaking in. But this is a shoe I think I could actually get used to and use as my main shoe. The cushioning is a bit better. It's not so hard anymore in the heel. And also in the forefoot here, it's much more roomy. It feels like almost like an EE shoe width. The previous shoes, they have been pretty tight here. And the new version, it's much more roomy. It feels a bit like my Yonex shoe. It's also a bit more roomy. So for people with narrow feet, I would say this might might be too wide actually these days, because it feels like they have made it. It's not so recognizable from the model, the version 9. So this is a brand new shoe. It's just not. It's not like a paint job of the old shoe. It's a really big technical update, and you have to give credits to Asics for really doing something with their shoes.
Yeah, it's one of those that's going to be a huge shift, like from the 9. So if you're loving the 9 and you want a new shoe, this will feel very, very different. Like I remember about testing it for the first time, I was like, wow, what's happening here? This is not like Gel-Res the way I perceive Gel-Res, but it's a gutsy move. It's a bit like Yonex when it comes to rackets. Like they completely changed the mold, they completely changed things, and that's a risky move, but it might pay off. I do know that it's a little bit of a hate-love, this Gel-Res X. But I think also that's why they call it Gel-Res X and then not 10, because it is quite different from 9. So you do know that there's like a development and an evolution of the shoe in many ways. And I would say that you need to give it a bit more time, like you pointed out, Henrik, because it's a bit more like the Adidas Barricades in that it's a little bit clunkier and more rubber. But when the rubber softens, it gets better. So it definitely needs more break-in than the previous Gel-Res, in my opinion, So it's an interesting shoe, but it's not like a super easy update from the 9, if that's what you love and use.
Yeah, then I think almost it's better to have like the Novak Court FF or something like that, because that is more like the Gel-Res 9 than the Gel-Res X, I would say. So, but give it some time, at least 4 or 5 hours of break-in time. Take it for a walk at your garden or something like that. And then it will be a different story compared to the first try, and also try different setups with the shoelaces and see how it locks in the foot. Now, today, the foot was more locked in compared to the first time I was trying it. So give it some time, and I am sure that people will like this one as well.
Yep. It's a good review. I think that makes sense. It's a tricky one with shoes, because it's not like you can have a demo program for shoes. You try a shoe and you kind of have to stick with it. But that's what it is. Asics, they make great shoes, but this was a risky one. And well, some will love it, some won't. But that's an interesting shoe for sure. So for you now, what's next on your tennis calendar? Like you've been stringing for the Davis Cup team. It was a tough match against Australia. What's happening? Like, do you have more tournaments upcoming, league matches, any fun travel that's on your calendar?
I was planning to play the Swedish National Championships in Gothenburg next weekend, but I was fixing tickets for the something called Melodifestivalen, Eurovision Song Contest here in Jönköping. So I will take my family to that one instead, and then I will also have a lot of work, because the matches will be played during the like a Monday, Tuesday, and I have a lot of work next week. So I was withdrawing from that one. So next tennis related match is like the league final in our league. We need to win that match, and if we do, we will be promoted to the second division, men's 45 in Sweden. So that's end of March. And then I have some tournaments, I think one in Mjölby, and it was some more. And then hopefully I will be able to go to Austria and play some league matches in the Landesliga Tirol for men's 35. And our team are hoping to win that league and be promoted to the Austrian Bundesliga, the highest division. So it would be nice to go there for a couple of matches. Maybe go to Eintracht Frankfurt as well to play in the German league. So it will be a lot of league matches, some tournaments. There are not that many that plays tournaments here in Sweden anymore in the men's 45, so it's difficult to find. Maybe I have to play the men's, the open grade. But then you can really play like against almost ATP level players in some tournaments, so it's difficult also. So I will work a lot now on the fitness, try to lose some kilos. It's not that easy when you're old. You have to work a lot more. Skip the Friday night pizza and beer. I will try to start to do some running, some skipping, some rope, step up boards and stuff like that, work on the core stability and just get more fit, like a more fit version. So next time, maybe I will look like a skeleton here when you're looking at me.
Let's hope not. Let's hope not.
No.
But it's good. The fitness is good, and I noticed a big difference in your movement as well on the court when we played. So that's excellent. And racket wise, what do you bring out for your next session?
I will, of course, have the Aero 98. That's my go-to racket. I will start tournaments with that one. I will also have the Nordic Dots Model 100 and give that some more love. And then I will try the Blade 100 as well. And I will also try the this one, the Instinct a bit more with a more to me suited grip shape and some lead and silicone, and see how that plays. Apart from that, I also want to try the Strike again. I will contact Bubble in Sweden and see if they have any demo rackets that I can try, and see how that plays. But that's it. I don't have any news that I'm been waiting for, and I think it will be pretty quiet now until maybe US Open or something, and see if something new is coming out. But it's not that much in the horizon for new rackets this coming year, I would say. I cannot think of anything, actually. Maybe a new Ultra from Wilson or something like that. I think that could be the next.
Yeah, new Ultra. I know I've tried the prototype Shift version 2, but I'm not sure when that's going to come out. But I tried that in LA last year. So yeah, I would say Ultra is next. Aero is for next year, the new Aero, so that's going to be a huge release for Babola. But Head Radical, but then there's nothing for a while, I think. Yeah, so it's not. We've had a heavy and hectic January, but I don't see like there's going to be so many exciting releases coming in the upcoming months, at least before the US Open.
Yeah, we have to find something nice to try when you are visiting me in July, or maybe we will try new court surfaces or court technologies, or we have to do like a pizza nerd or something
exactly.
like that.
Pizza nerd sounds good.
Content. Yeah,
but I'm sure we will have plenty of sticks and stuff to tinker with. Like I talked to you on WhatsApp a while ago, there's the Zenny Smart courts that I would like to try. That they reached out, and it would be nice to try some of that stuff, and we'll see where we are with tennis balls and other equipment. And there might be new shoes coming as
Absolutely.
well. Of course, shoes you got to keep your eyes on, although it's not as easy to test shoes. I prefer just sticking to my existing shoes, but sometimes it's fun. Depends.
Yeah.
Cool, Henrik. Thanks a lot for joining. I hope people enjoyed the call. If you have any questions, put them in the comments, and we'll try our best to reply to them. And if not in the comments, we'll do another pod. But always fun to have Henrik on. And for you racket nerds, I think it's a treat as well. And good luck in your upcoming matches and with everything. And we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. Have a nice day, and don't forget to
play some tennis.